deep in the Ozarks and Ridge Runner Studios. This is the Nursing Underground, a podcast that will help clear the white noise in medicine and politics and help you define the forest from the trees. Here is your host, David Big Dave Ezel. Welcome to the Nursing Underground.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Nursing Underground. I am your host, Big Dave. I'm coming to you from Hardy, Arkansas, home of the Spring River. And I say home of the Spring River, it actually starts in Mountain Springs, Arkansas. But Hardy seems to be the high point of all the floating and rafting and parties and all of that good stuff. So I say it's the home here. If you get a chance and you want to come water rafting, I can't think of a better, cooler river to do it on. There tends to be a lot of guests here. The river's a little bit cooler than the rest of them because it's a naturally fed spring river. It's been used by the Native Americans in the area for generations, and now we use it for water sports, and a lot of people use it for health and healing. So come on, try it, enjoy it, and have fun. One of the hosts of my show, she just recently had an eye surgery, and Amy, I am so glad you're feeling better. I wish that you would have been able to have done this sooner, but I'm glad you were able to save your life, your eyesight, and congratulations on being able to see again. Your post on Facebook about looking at the stars for the first time in years really touched my heart, and I appreciate the fact that you were so open about it. But she has a shop, and we're going to push the shop. She may not be at full force yet, but it's a very special shop.
Do you have a friend or family member you're having trouble buying a gift for? You just can't find the right gift for the person who has everything? Then go to Rockin' Magnolia Customs, a place where you can pick out and design the perfect gift for that special someone. That's rockinmagnoliacustoms.com or find them on Facebook at Rockin' Magnolia Customs.
And ladies and gentlemen, that's Rockin' Magnolia Customs. There's no G in Rockin'. And customs is always spelled with a K at rockinmagnoliacustoms.com. Go give her a visit and see if you can find a gift for that special someone in your life. I'd like to thank everybody for joining me back. This would be considered season 3, although I did a Rumble only cast at rumble.com, Big Dave 12 last week. Because of the nature of the subject, I chose not to podcast it out across my platform base. It was intended for a specific audience, and the specific audience paid attention, tuned in, and I've had nothing but great comments and compliments, and I really appreciate it all. Now, let's get started. We have had a very active week. The Ivermectin report came out and basically told us all that COVID-19 was treatable with ivermectin, which we kind of already knew, but we were called conspiracy theorists because nobody else wanted us to know, like the government, because it would destroy their narrative and it would destroy their plans. We have now come to find out by studying research that not only did they not want us to know about the ivermectin, but the ivermectin has a lot of healing powers and treats a lot of autoimmune diseases. I can personally tell you that I am also human. I'm not superhuman. I have trouble accepting that sometimes. But I got sick and ended up in the hospital. That's why the title of this is healthcare, caring beyond healthcare. I really want to know what that means because I didn't experience any caring beyond healthcare. Give you a little back history. 3 years ago, I was 2018, November of 2018. I was diagnosed with Graves' disease. In case you don't know what Graves' disease is, it's a hyperthyroid condition initiated by a set of autoimmune diseases. It's genetic, which means it's passed from generation to generation. Just for the people that don't know what that means. And my listeners are very smart, but this is just for those that don't know what that means. Because I've become the ire of Lefty's desires at this point in time in my life. And I have to be very extra explanatory to the snowflakes. And I'm sure y'all understand that. My original listeners, I appreciate y'all joining me every year, every season. This is very special to me because we were all the people that pushed for the ivermectin during the middle of this damn pandemic. And I said it, pandemic. It appears everything's becoming planned by our government now, including the pandemic, the fires on Maui, etc., etc. I don't know no other fire that burns just cars and houses and leaves the trees intact. Do you? I live in the mountains where we have wildfires. It burns everything in its path. It doesn't have a conscience. It's definitely not green, climate friendly, and going to avoid the trees in the way. I have the Graves' disease, and I was having the same exact symptoms of a thyroid storm that I had when I had it the first time. So when I say thyroid storm, I'd actually, over the weekend, over the few days I was off, had gone into AFib a couple of times, but it occurred every time after I took the Synthroid. So I thought, okay, well, they said that there's only a 30% chance, 70% chance that it would be successful after 5 years. And I thought maybe I'd fallen into that category. But when I went to the hospital, I went in and told them I was having some AFib, but it is resolved because I took the medication to resolve it. Because I do know how to do that. My doctor told me how to do that in the first set of AFib I had, and I did it. And of course, it did its job. Where I didn't require to go to the hospital, but I needed to go be seen. So the very first question out of their mouth was, did I ever have a heart cath at 5:30 in the morning? And I said, no, not having one. Had one then, and no, I'm not having one now. Did you miss the part where I'm allergic to anesthesia? Because that's one of my allergies. I can't be put to sleep. It sucks to have, and usually requires a long way around or a local anesthetic with just a little bit of twilight, because I can take a little bit of Valium, but that's about it. So the slogan of this facility is caring beyond healthcare. And I posted on my TikTok commercial, I want to know what that means. Because I'm going to tell you what happened to me on this hospitalization. First off, disclaimer that I have a family member that works there. And I was trying my best to be on my best behavior, but if you know me and know this podcast, you know I have a problem with that sometimes. But 5:30 in the morning, the doc asked me if I ever had a heart cath. And I waited for a bed. They were going to admit me for some more testing because it looked like I had become a diabetic, which I did find out that I actually had a diabetes, new onset, and, they were going to check that out. But, that only requires one blood test or maybe a glucose tolerance test just to see how bad you are. They did that, but they didn't tell me the results until I had to make them tell me the results. The very first person that came into my room was a cardiologist on the consult. Very first question that was asked was, had I ever had a heart cath? Yes, I have, and I'm not having another one. Next. Well, have you ever taken a statin? Well, no, I haven't, and I'm not going to because of the side effects statins have. I just choose not to. Besides, there's other ways to get the cholesterol if it's so high out of your body. But you have a total disregard for the fact that your body actually needs cholesterol to function and keep the brain functioning right. That's the first flaw in Rockefeller's medicine is all they do is Rockefeller's medicine. They own most of the big pharmas, and they create a symptom. They create a drug for that symptom, and then they treat that symptom. And that same drug causes 2,500 different side effects that they have to treat on top of that. But the only people that make the medicine to treat the side effects for the drug they just created, for a symptom that they had just created, also creates the other medicines that you have to treat the side effects for. So they're making money hand over fist, and they know this, and they're fully aware of it. For years, people have asked the question, why is healthcare so cheap in other countries? It's because they do traditional medicine and a mixture of medications and holistic pathways and naturistic pathways and dietary pathways with all of their stuff. We don't do that here because it's frowned upon. And that has to do with Rockefeller. If you want to find out what I'm talking about, I've got episodes where I talk about how it was created in 1913, and Rockefeller bought the pharmacy industry shortly after that in Germany, and then his pharmacy is the one that created Zyklon B to gas the Jews in the gas chambers. Not popular, but a very hard fact. Here is a disclaimer for this season. I will not do your research for you. If you want to prove me wrong, find your damn topic sentence and start researching it yourself to try to prove me wrong. I very much welcome it. I don't want to be right, folks. I don't. You know why I don't want to be right? Because that means that if I am right, then medicine is nothing but a farce, a joke, and is only designed to treat symptoms and make big pharma money, and all that money trickles around. And the reason it's allowed to do like that is what people don't understand is big pharma is the number one lobbying payer in D.C. They are ranked higher than the next two combined. Number 4 is big oil. And big oil and big pharma actually go hand in hand. So, yes, big pharma and big oil are the top 2 contributors, and they give more money to Washington, D.C. It only explains the reason why you have a $175,000 a year job you're elected to, but in 2 years you're multi-millionaire. It's all over. They have to post all of their stuff. Insider trading's been going on in D.C. because they make the rules for the groups that they're setting for, lobbying for, making rules for. They know which stocks are going to sell big. They know which stocks are going to sell low. They stay away from the low and go into the high, but that's a whole show for a different day. What I'm here today to tell you is the government doesn't give a shit about your health care. I'm going to explain why on my case. About February of this past year, I had a friend of mine that really pushed for me to start the Ivermectin program. I had to do a lot of research, but what I found was quite disturbing for humans. When you have a virus, it's a respiratory virus, and it's new, and you don't really know what you're dealing with, and the people that have all the information ain't given the right information. That'd be the government. That would be the FDA. That would be CMS. That would be any 3-letter agency that has to do with your health care. All line they came out with COVID is misinformation. Ivermectin is misinformation. Any of the treatments that we tell you is misinformation. It's only the way we say it, and it's only the way we say it because it's the way we say it, and you're going to do it, and you're going to like it. And people became weary of that kind of attitude and that kind of statement and that kind of action by our government. Because basically what they said is, we're right, you're wrong. We're going to give you the cure for it. You're going to like it, and you're going to take it because we're going to make you take it. This past week, the Ivermectin study came out and said that it could be used in the treatment of COVID-19. There was a whole study that came out about the effectiveness of ivermectin in the treatment of COVID-19. Now, I've heard doctors say it doesn't matter to them. They weren't going to prescribe it in the fact of just principle. Principle of what? Your first rule when you take your Hippocratic oath from medical school is first, do no harm. Now, for all you doctors out there, and I understand they were taking your license and you had to have a way to work to pay all those horrendous student loans. You see I'm and because I don't give a shit. First, do no harm. Your lack of even trying anything outside the box by saying it's horse paste and it's not really for human consumption. Okay, I know y'all went to medical school and everything, but when you break down the species and beings and genuses and classifications and all that, there's one called mammal, mammal, mammal. I don't know if you remember it, but like fish, there's some fishes out there that give live birth. They're mammals, and humans give live birth and they're mammals, and horses give live birth and they're mammals, and dogs give live birth and they're mammals. And do you see where I'm going here? Why are you worried about it being a horse, equine paste, when it should, it's just mammal paste, right? Is everybody following me here? Are you starting to see it yet? So the FDA says it's okay to consume, which tells me you fucking liars, y'all fucking suck. And what people tend to forget, we're short-term memory folks because we're in a 24-hour information cycle on the internet. We're in a 24 information cycle on these social media apps. And everybody tends to forget, and they have totally forgot because nobody's making an effort about it. You're going to hear me say it 100 times. You're going to hear me say it until the cows come home. You're going to hear me get super goddamn mad about it. Because the ultimate insult to somebody's life is letting them die alone. Our government allowed it to happen. The hospitals allowed it to happen. Now, whether the hospitals actually did or not isn't my concern. One case here, one case there. The biggest majority, and you're just going to have to be lumped because that's just how it works in America. The biggest majority of all the hospitals across the country that actually had major infections, their staff was spread so thin because you had mandated a shot they weren't going to take. So instead of being mandated and told what to do with their bodies and their health care and trying to make their health care individualized, you tried to make us the enemies. In the meantime, your own citizens were dying alone and you never cared then. But let me tell you what you're going to have to do now. You're going to apologize. We're going to hear that apology to every healthcare worker that stayed and stuck it out and got mad every time a resident or a patient or something passed away under their care because your rules made it to where we couldn't let anybody in. And the companies you had so scared of fines for an 880 fine, which is infection control fines, that you wouldn't even let them in because you were scared. You means you had no balls. Not even a set, not even ones that hadn't failed yet. You had none. No balls. You want to know what the biggest problem is with all of this that's going on, and now all these reports are coming out because, this Ivermectin study is going to make doctors feel like they're about to be useless. Mainly because doctors are. I don't want anybody that practices medicine. You're practicing. I don't need a practicer. You're supposed to practice when you're in medical school. By the time you get out of medical school, you're supposed to be a physician. Because doctors practice medicine, physicians heal bodies. Physicians heal people's souls. Physicians heal people. Period. Not one time did I see anybody ever get offered ivermectin from anybody because they were scared of what you were going to do to them. You're going to take their license. That is illegal. And you should be held fucking accountable for it. And the people in this country have had it. I've noticed a shift over the past few days, especially since the ivermectin report came out. And the reason that there's been a shift and the reason they're doing it, in just my case, I went into the hospital. They tried to heart cath me all day. All I asked for was a TSH to be run. Nobody wanted to run it because they're the doctor. You don't tell them what to do. Well, let me tell you something, docs. I'm fixing to start advocating. You're the only advocate I got. I'm not the only advocate. The patients that are under you, they're their only advocates they have. So if they tell you to do something, you working for them, do it. No matter how stupid and futile you think it is. Oh, well, you had it radiated 3 years ago. We don't need it. I said, run it. So all day long, I was asked about a heart cath. All day long, I said, no, I'm allergic to anesthesia. Number one, I had one heart cath without anesthesia, just a local in a little twilight, and it hurt like all hell. I learned a lot, but it hurt so bad I'll never do it again. So you better figure out how to stand my ass without anesthesia. So we sat here and this report comes out and people start reading. Well, I am a health nerd. The study came out and I read it all the way to the back page. And I noticed something on this back page about the letters of LKU P3 or PKLU3 or anyway, it amounts to, it was dissolving tumors with those numbers on it. They used those numbers when I looked those numbers up. It's adenocarcinoma. That's cancer, folks. It was having major effects against cancer. Now studies are coming out where there's other autoimmune diseases, and I'll get into those in the next episodes, that are caused by parasites. Ivermectin is an anti-parasitical medicine. What is the other one? There's another one that I've got that I'm on now since I've been diagnosed with that. Fenbendazole or Panicure. That's another horse paste. It apparently fights the parasites in a deep level of the body. One thing it's been known to cure is, believe it or not, diabetes. But we haven't done a study on fenbendazole. We just know that it's an anti-parasitical medicine that they use sometimes in the States when the ivermectin doesn't work for them well, when they're allowed to prescribe it. The funny thing is that when you start doing your research, when you're trying to prove me wrong, I need you to do some things. I need you to look up some things. Type in how many countries still deworm their population and how many countries do not. And then I need you to look up how much of America's food is traded to other countries. And then what I want you to do is look up why our food isn't traded to the other countries and what the reason is behind it and why. I'm sure you'll be shocked. The next thing I want you to do is I want you to go to Walmart and I want you to pull up all of the ingredients of all the Great Value brand stuff. And I want you to write down how many of them have fish products or fish byproducts in them. Because fish are a big carrier of parasites, but the one that we're talking about is called tilapia, and it's the nastiest fish on earth, in my opinion. It is full of parasites. Heat doesn't kill it, cold doesn't kill them. And those type fish, and then they're making your marshmallows. Now, I don't know how you put fish in a marshmallow without it tasting like a fish, but I wasn't going to stick around to find out because it's gross to think about, in my opinion. And that's what this is, folks. It's opinion editorial, and really there's no facts involved as far as being responsible. But I am responsible because I'm telling you all this information. I'm telling you what to look up. I'm telling you where it's at. It's not my job to look it up for you. It's your job to look up your own information. And simply put, if you don't do your own research, you can continue to remain an idiot. But most of you do anyway, because you snowflakes have to get butthurt about something. But he didn't give me the information, and he said it, so it's misinformation if he didn't say it. Well, you have to look up your own. Because I actually have the information to automatically counter yours. So, let's see. Oh, yes. Heart caths. That's where I was. So, they kept asking me about heart caths all day. I hadn't eaten in 2 days when I got there, mainly because it was new onset of diabetes. But they weren't worried about. They were worried about a heart cath first. So I got to be lunchtime and I said, I believe I can eat something today. I would like lunch. Well, you've got to be NPO. I don't know how many times I have to refuse a heart cath. More than once is too many. So then, of course, the dietitian lady came up there and she said, well, I've got some baked fish. I don't eat baked fish. It's Friday in the deep South. I'll have the fried fish. Thank you. She said, well, you can't have the fried fish. I said, well, why can't I have the fried fish? She said, hold on, I'll go ask your nurse. So then they came in there and they told me the following. You're going to have to eat the baked fish because the doctor wrote your diet order and you can't refuse it. How is that caring beyond healthcare? I can't refuse an order. First off, that takes away my right to my individualized medicine. That is my choice to make. Not a charge nurse that may have been out of school 5 years. Because that's where we're at. Doctors writing orders is nothing but doctors writing orders, giving guidance to their patient's care. It's up to the patient to decide if they want that care or not. And if they decide they don't want that type of care, that's not important to them. And it doesn't matter to them. And how is one piece of fried fish going to affect my new onset of diabetes? It's not. Because it's a new onset of diabetes and there's cornmeal and flour in it. I get it. It might. The carbohydrates in it might, cause it up. But since I've been refusing the heart cath, wasn't worried about the cardiac enzymes because they were all coming back normal. I knew it wasn't a cardiac situation, and they put me on this diet. And then I put you on this diet because it'll get... No. What you'll do is you're going to go downstairs. You're going to get me a fish plate. I didn't ask for the hush puppies, and I didn't ask for the beans. But if you're a new onset diabetic, and you're not educated before that, if I had known that the beans and the hush puppies was going to run my blood sugar up through the roof because of the proteins and the carbohydrates involved in them, all I ate was the fish, folks. And then they got mad about that because they didn't eat it because they went down to prove a point and they brought back all of these condiments with sugar in them. Is that caring beyond healthcare? Is it? I ask. I'm asking because I want to know. It's your slogan. It's not mine. I mean, those of us that actually care beyond healthcare don't need a slogan to do it with. And the stuff I heard when I was in the hospital, I don't even think I would just take it all down and just leave your name up there because your slogan is a lie. If you cared beyond healthcare, how much are you paying your staff? Are you paying your staff a livable wage in that town in which this occurred? Which is just outside of Little Rock, about 80 miles, and it's north of Searcy and south of Cave City. And for the people in Arkansas, they know where that's at. So, first off, you didn't hear me when I said I wasn't having a goddamn heart cath. You didn't pay attention to that. You just kept asking over and over and over like I was going to wear down. That was bad enough. And then you started talking to me like I was stupid and didn't know what was going on. I was trying to be nice, and you took that from me too. How is that caring beyond healthcare? You see, the nurses that I had, but the one charge nurse, but all the nurses that I had, all the techs that I had, all the externs in nursing school that I had were fucking fabulous. They are very good workers, but believe you me, they ain't blindfolded. They're fully aware. That should scare you more than any. That should scare you even more than me. But I wrote on my AMA exactly why I was leaving. You made me feel like the doctors talked to me like they thought I was stupid. When in actuality, I've been taking the ivermectin program. My thyroid had repaired itself. It was normal. So me taking the medications they had put me on when they supposedly destroyed my thyroid is what caused me to go into AFib. It came out of it with the medications that they gave me to keep my heart beating stronger, but happens to be a beta blocker. And a treatment for AFib is taking the beta blocker. The beta blocker kind of stops it sometimes. Sometimes it's unreversible, but sometimes it is. And I happen to absolutely fall under the sometimes it is. I already knew about that, but y'all kept talking to me like I was stupid. That is not going to play. Yes, this is a rural area. Yes, there are some people that don't get it because they have more important things in their lives, like a farm, a family, providing for them, trying to make $100 of groceries now last a week or even 4 days, whereas 2 years ago, $100 in groceries could last a week, week and a half, if handled right. So they're worried about that. But the very fact that you talk to me that way tells me that you talk to everybody that way. And if they don't do what you say, you bend them to get them to do it. Because that's what you do when you start repeating the same thing over and over, is you start to convince them that they're in bad shape and they need it. That's a violation of the patient-doctor relationship, which tells me that somebody there told you to do as many fucking heart casts last week as you could get in there. And it doesn't matter. Keep saying it until they do it. The simple fact, folks, is medicine isn't anywhere like it was before COVID, and now it's worse. Now, for some reason, they think they're in control. And you know what that has to do with? That has to do with the federal government thinking they could mandate shit and we were all just going to bow down and do it. But guess what? That's not what's happening. That's not even what's happening. And for all of you people out there, doctors that say that you're not going to prescribe ivermectin for the simple principle, let me tell you something. You don't prescribe it. The FDA said it was okay to give, and you don't prescribe it, and you're hollering it's out of principle, you're doing your patients a disservice and deserve to have your license pulled. And I'm going to give you why. Docs, has there ever been a medicine used an off-label? I know one right off of my top of my head right now that's got an addiction problem linked to it. Is controlled in some states. But when I tried to come off of that, it's the hardest thing I've ever done, and that's gabapentin. They were off-label uses, but it worked, and you didn't have a problem doing it. But yet, ivermectin makes you have a problem doing it. Why? Because if you go to treat the COVID-19, but something else fixes itself, like my thyroid did. Because the only difference that I changed was I added ivermectin, and it healed it. It's running normal. The recheck of it I had done is also 1.2, which is normal range. Now, I'm not saying go out and grab you a tube of ivermectin. That actually replaces the conversation you have to have between you and your doctor if you trust them. Problem is, I don't trust any doctor or nurse practitioner. They have to prove themselves to me. And if you don't want to have to prove yourself, then you're in the wrong field. Because these doctors that have a loyal following have proved themselves to their patients and have bent and done their labs. Even if they didn't want to order them, they did it because they were asked to. And I asked the first time. By the time it got to doctor number 4, I wasn't asking. I just told him, you ain't coming back. Don't you send nobody else in here. I'm not having a heart cath done till that TSH number comes in, so I'll know what to do for me. So I can make my best informed decision. You wouldn't even allow that to happen. What is that caring beyond health care? It's a lie. It's fake. You think you're sitting in there with your board of directors and your CEO, and you think you got the whole area food. Let me tell you something. You talk to these people like they talk to me, thinking I was stupid. It took me, I had to say under my breath 100 times because it's only been like 6 weeks since they got out of school right before July 4th, right? They've only been a doctor for 6 weeks. They've only been a doctor for 6 weeks. They've only been a doctor for 6 weeks. I shouldn't have to do that. They should listen and go look it up themselves. They shouldn't have a plan placed before them. And you as a hospital unit's going to say, we didn't have a plan. Well, it's funny that every fucking doctor in that place asked me about a heart cath, and I just said no at 5:30 in the morning. That should have been the goddamn end of it. But you didn't. You tried to keep me NPO as long as possible because I might change my mind. No, I didn't. What I changed my mind on was the baked fish and the fried fish. I had to tell them this was Friday in the deep South, and we don't eat baked fish nowhere. If you're a true Southerner, it's always a piece of fried catfish on Fridays. It's just us. That's how we roll. And you're rolling baked fish at them. The problem else I have is everybody knows if they've watched anything, studied anything, or done their own research on anything, that food just don't taste good now because, it's grown in a petri dish. Whereas fried filleted catfish, whether it's grown in a petri dish or not, it's covered in grease. And that's good. But I didn't eat all the sugar condiments that the nurse tried to send in to run my blood sugar up, because they also know that when they give me the insulin, it was going to rebound. Because it's a new onset. It's probably not good to start out with sliding scales. Probably start good with starting at small doses of PO meds first. Just didn't do that either. Caring beyond healthcare. What a big joke. And when you're in a hospital, you pay attention to what the other departments are talking about. And I heard of all these people leaving for less money, but their rent's cheaper. So now I'm researching whether or not people on the board of directors have access or own or have control and interest in any of these companies that have these apartments around there. Because it sounds to me like you know what their pay scale is and you know how to get every dime out of them. Because if they're taking a $1 an hour pay cut, but yet their rent goes down $250, $300, then there's a problem. And you got the right one, because I'm researching it as we speak. So you are online because you have to be, and your names will be easily traced. And then all I need to find out is your business affiliations. See how many of you affiliated together from that board there. Now, while your intentions may be good, your priorities aren't in order. You think you got the best paid staff? You don't. You're not paying them enough, in my opinion. If there's a nurse making less than $22, let me rephrase that, help you out a little bit here, of the public out. If there's a nurse working here at the LPN rate, and they're working for less than $25 an hour, then the company is ripping them off. And the HR rules, you're not in control of anything anymore, so shut up. Don't talk about your pay, people. That's the only way you're going to know whether you're getting taken advantage of or not. Talk about your pay. You can do it. There's no law against it. Your HR rules, they got to prove it. They can't just fire you because somebody knows what you make an hour. It could have been a lucky guess. So you're going to have to prove it. When I say you're not in control anymore, you say every time y'all have called me, I've laughed and scoffed at you for the rate you told me. And when I tell you what I'm currently making, you say, well, we can't afford that. Well, why not? Why can't you afford it? Because trust me, the healthcare facility tells you that they can't afford to pay you because they're not making any money. They're lying to you. Now, what I've always been told is ignorance of the law is no excuse. And I have the law. That's the Constitution. The attorneys don't like me that much either because you should never pay a ticket for speeding through a town. You should never pay a ticket for not having a driver's license or any car tag or expired car tag, any of that. But that's a whole nother show. See, healthcare's changed. You think you're in control and you're trying to go back to business as usual. It's not business as usual. Just like with me, you talked to me like I was an idiot. Stupid, didn't know what I was talking about. when in actuality, I've probably forgotten more than you've learned so far. Because 30 years in this field, I've seen it all. I've seen it come and go. I've seen the fad diets go. I've seen the fad medications go. I've seen all the fad weight loss drugs come and go. When all you got to tell them is just take a little ivermectin for a few months. This will get rid of the bots and the organisms that crave sugar and store the sugar as food for themselves, not for you. Because a parasite doesn't care about you. It only cares about feeding and multiplying. That's it. Feeding and breeding. That's all they care about. They send out the signals. You have your craving. Because what happened with me was, I'm not a big vegetable eater. Usually just meat and potatoes for every meal. And I actually crave vegetables and fruits now. I actually like to eat. I like them. I like to eat them. I used to when I was a little kid. But just a few things like oranges. And that was it. Now I love it. I can't wait to figure out what kind of salad I'm going to have out next. It's like a whole new world for me because it got rid of the parasites on my tongue and changed my taste buds. And if you don't think I was lost on the fact that you were talking to me that way, and don't think I was lost on the fact that you kept trying to force me to have a test run that I really couldn't have run because I can't be put in anesthesia. So were you going to do it without it? I wouldn't have trusted any of y'all at all after the way I was treated. And in the end, it ended up being an endocrinology issue. But I had all the lab works I needed. You tried to put me on a statin medication, and my cholesterol wasn't even qualifying for that. My cholesterol might have been a little on the higher side, 184, but my ratio, my low density and my high density ratios were equal. Perfect. Right down the middle. That doesn't require a statin drug. That requires a bowl of oatmeal at night. You, undoubtedly, are the most inept bunch of students I've seen come out of a medical school in years. I have seen the most inept nurses come out of nursing school in the last 2 years because they were at a disadvantage. They couldn't do clinicals in the facilities because the government decided to lock them down and keep everybody out. Why? So we couldn't go outside there and talk about, well, they're really not that sick. They're really not that sick. God, why are they so thinned out here? What's going on? Why'd so many nurses quit? Can you tell me why those nurses quit? Because they're not going to be told what shots to take. They're not going to be told what shots to do. The government did everything they possibly could to destroy health care the last 2 years. And people forget. They let patients die alone. That's how much your government cares for you. They let your family members die alone. And you're just falling right back in the damn trap. Even though the reports are coming out that everything that they quoted conspiracy theorists said was lie, was truth. And not only did they know it was the truth, they knew ivermectin would work before this hit, because when H1N1 hit, we were all told that ivermectin is what's going to save America from the next pandemic. So yes, they were aware. And for all you doctors, I don't give a damn if your patient comes in there now and they ask for 6 or 10 or 12 3-milligram ivermectin tablets. You better be prescribing it. Because what's coming out next, what my next week's show is about one other one that it cures. The information I got is from an actual physician that performed all 100 of the autopsies. And the disease process affects a lot of people. And when you find out which disease process it is, and that it's caused by parasites, and that's the cure, The cure is the parasites. The Ivermectin study that came out, the last 4 or 5 pages, talks about how it kills adenocarcinoma. And large oak cell cancer in a female is lung cancer for those people that, well, I don't know how she got lung cancer. She didn't even smoke. I don't know how she got lung cancer. She didn't do this. I don't know how she got lung cancer. She didn't do that. She didn't work in a factory. She didn't work around chemicals. She didn't work in a nuclear factory. She just out of the blue, has lung cancer. And the study that they had said that it destroys adenocarcinoma tumors. If you don't do that, are you going to get in trouble? Because Rockefeller said in 1913 that if you even suggest anything other outside of chemotherapy, radiation, and surgery to treat cancer, you're going to lose your license. Is that still on today? It must be. You got the study out there to back you up. And I hadn't heard anybody doing it. And I actually hear doctors say they're not going to prescribe ivermectin out of sheer principle. Principle of what? Principle of what? People in America are smarter than you give them credit for. You sure weren't expecting me to set you on the couch, was you, Mr. Cardiologist, and stand above you and tell you exactly what was about to happen. You said you wanted me to go into your clinic and come for a 30-day heart monitor. A 30-day heart monitor for what? If my thyroid's working, then I don't take Synthroid anymore. I won't go into thyroid rush, and I won't go into AFib. Simple. It's really easy. Even a nurse can do it. You've done it. You've destroyed healthcare. I'm taking all of these slogans and I'm going to make you live by them. They're your slogans. That means they're your truth. You care beyond healthcare? Do you? Or do you just care into healthcare? And beyond healthcare, you can give a fuck less about. You care beyond healthcare, Mr. Hospital there? You care really? Do you, Mr. CEO? Do you, Mr. Board of Directors? Do you care about healthcare beyond healthcare? Because at everything I ask, I got stopped dead for. First time I've ever been in a hospital, and I wasn't even offered a damn glass of water, and I was laying there dehydrated. But you wouldn't tell me you'd NPO'd me in case I changed my mind and had a heart cath or the enzymes were bad. So you're just going to let me lay there and starve? See, you don't give credit where credit is due. I'm going to give you all the credit that's come due you. You're getting it all. You have no idea. I know this ain't a great big podcast, but I know it's an effective motherfucker. I know this ain't a great big podcast, but I guarantee you all of Central Arkansas are going to hear it. Now, like I said, the nursing staff, they were freaking awesome. They got it from the get-go. They understood what no meant. But your doctors, on the other hand, you ran your doctor in there to ask me what was wrong with it. I said, I'm not having the cardiac enzymes are normal, right, Doc? Yes. So why would y'all be asking me if I'm having a heart cath if my cardiac enzymes are normal? Did you ever run my TSH yet, Doc? No, I haven't. Well, why hadn't you? I asked at 5:30 this morning for him to start running that damn test. It takes 3 fucking minutes. 10 if you add the T3 and the free T4 test. But nobody could run it. Nobody could just order one to see. Or would that have been too easy of a fix? They wouldn't have required an overnight stay. And the next morning, everybody start again on heart cath. You got all of those people chewed out, not really and truly not because they kept asking me for a heart cath, because they kept asking me for a heart cath and treat me like they thought I was some dumb redneck hick. Now, normally what doctors do is They go in and they ask you what the name of this bone and that bone, because there's 600 bones, and bones ain't my, I get the major bones. That's all I have to know. What I do know is you can't teach common sense. Now, you can try to, but you can't teach it. You can attempt to try to understand people, but when you get people from the city and people from the country, they don't understand the little nuances and the jokes. And that's what you should really start. What area are you going to work in? You're going to do rural medicine? Because if you're going to do rural medicine, that's mainly in the South. And we have got to get you into the redneck library so you'll understand what's going on. And you'll know who not to fuck with and who to ask real questions to. I'm good mind just to go back and keep using that facility, because every time I will come in there, the very first test you're going to run will be a TSH, a T3, and a free T4. That's so I can make my decisions based on my previous health scares and my previous health issues. Something y'all had never asked anything about my history. You just rolled over it because it didn't involve a heart cath. Now, that may not be true, but that's how I feel. Because I'm caring beyond your health care here. I'm trying to help you save your facility. Keep following the FDA rules. Keep allowing Big Pharma to control what your doctors do. Keep on with it. It'll be interesting to see, because you take, if you treat the regular people like you treated me, and I'm not saying I'm not a regular person, I'm just saying I have more knowledge than the average bear does. But I can tell you that these people read and they study and they look their own information up, and they don't use Google sources, because the government locked us down for 2 years. We ended up starting to talk to each other, and we started to tell, don't use Google browser because they're hiding and burying shit. Just like the Ivermectin study, don't use Google browser to look it up because you're not going to find it. They have it buried like on the 6th page. So go into Brave browser and just type in new Ivermectin study, and it'll pull up as the first pull. A fundamental breakdown in this country occurred in the middle of the lockdowns. The people that had money and the people that were already rich, they were given a pass. But those of us they considered middle class and below got locked down. Our kids got sent home from school. We got locked down in the house, and then we started researching and talking to each other. It reestablished a lot of friendships. It made a lot of new friendships all over the country. It doesn't stop now, does it? See, when you go into a facility and all they ask you to start with is a heart cath, and that's all you hear for 2 damn days after you said no multiple times and they keep asking, you're not wearing me down. But how many people do you wear down for useless tests? I went to all those ultrasounds, by the way, because they needed to do their tests. Get it? They, their radiology and their lab, and there are a lot of external people that also depend on that hospitalization to get their paycheck. And a lot of these facilities, the departments, have to show a certain amount of census to be able to justify their existence. So I went to those ultrasounds, and they did their little jobs, and then I said, well, if that wand was to kind of fall over and go over this organ, can we just look at it real quick? Just kind of a slide by. So see, while you were running your test, I was counter-opting everything you did. And I think it was wonderful. I saw a lot, figured out a lot on my own. As I looked up some stuff when I got back to the room. There are people like me everywhere. There's a lot more of them now. And there's going to be a lot more of them coming your way. My suggestion is, if your moniker is to care beyond healthcare, that you do it. My suggestion is you teach people how to have a personality. What's it going to hurt for a person to have a meal that they want when they hadn't eaten in 2 days? What's it going to hurt? Is it going to kill them? I mean, they can choke. Anybody can choke, but is really the difference between a piece of baked fish and a piece of fried fish really so all important that that's the hill that nurse was willing to die on? How ignorant. If they would have come to me and said, I'm going to tell you really, the fish was just an issue. It wasn't my problem really until you said I couldn't refuse something. Then it became your issue. But if they'd have come to me and said, we got a big bowl of chicken and dumplings, would you have been mad if they'd have brought that to me? Because dumplings has flour in it. Flour has carbohydrates. Carbohydrates run up sugar, and you're new diabetic. I'm a new diabetic. I'm not an old diabetic. I'm a new one. I'm also a nurse. Been in the medical field 31 years. I know how to do without the dumpling and move it to the side. I'm not a child. I'm a 52-year-old man. Quit treating your patients like they're ignorant. Because you did me. That means that I'm not the only one, see. I'm not the only one. That's why I'm saying this. You say, well, he's the only one that we've really treated like a dipshit, dumbass. No, I'm not. I'm one of many. And keeping on playing into their fears of dying from heart trouble, and keep on playing in their fears of dying from diabetes, and to keep on playing into their fears of dying from whatever diagnosis you come up with is a misjustice of the healthcare field, and you should lose your licenses over it. All that tells me is in and out like cattle. Get them in and out of here like cattle so you can pad our yearly bonuses. And yeah, we're not even going to have to touch a patient because we're the CEO and the board of directors. And our yearly bonuses are more than our employees make in a year. That's what's more important. And if that's not the case, prove me wrong. The challenge has been laid. Care beyond healthcare next time. Make it so, Scotty. Beam 'em up. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Big Dave with a rant from hell in this week's Nursing Underground. But next week, you're going to get to find out it doesn't stop there. I'm going to put you in a rant. I'm going to tell you, too, of autoimmune diseases caused by parasites. And the treatment is in the equine section of Tractor Supply and Chewy and any other veterinary medicine place, deworming place you can find. So tune in next week and find out.
You have been listening to the Healthcare Underground, a podcast dedicated to informing you of the white noise in politics and healthcare and helping you to redefine the trees in the forest. Join Big Dave again next week in the Healthcare Underground from Ridge Runner Studios. Hey, do you want to join the revolution against tyranny? In the Gray State, you can learn how our forefathers' revolution began and how they changed their future and ours. Here you will learn if this is the direction of our country now. Join Big Dave on the Gray State Revolution podcast to find out. Available on Apple, iHeart, and Spotify, or wherever you download your podcasts.